All right, Coach, I mean, he said it. An ugly win is an ugly win, but it's still a win. How should the Steelers feel after barely beating the Green Bay Packers?
I think they should feel fine. This happens all the time in the league where you have a team that you think you should definitely beat, and everybody in the world thinks you should definitely beat them, and it ends up being a lot closer than it should. Now, it has been a pattern with them where they play better against better teams, and they tend to have letdowns, and that, to me, is something that you'd want to see changed. I think it was Mean Joe Green who talked about it before the game, what the team needed to do and how they needed to, put away all their egos. They needed to focus on being team-centric.
The Steelers had alumni weekend.
Yeah.
So they had a bunch of the Hall of Famers. They had
a bunch of the guys back.
Mean Joe spoke. It's pretty powerful.
And it's a little bit of the antithesis of New England, where they do look ahead in Pittsburgh, and they actually embrace looking ahead in Pittsburgh. You heard Tomlin talk about the Patriots, and you heard him talk about the fact that they're going to be not only going to play them in December, but it's probably a precursor to games later on, or to a game later on in the year. They embrace that, and that's the way they operate. We talked about the infighting that they've had. They embrace that. That's
different
the way they
rules
operate.
For different families.
And then for them, it works.
But doesn't that surprise you, looking ahead to anything past exactly what's in front of you? Can you ever imagine Bill Belichick commenting on a game that's even 1 minute after the game they're currently playing? He would never mention that December 17th game, ever.
No.
Even on the 17th, he probably
never
talk about it.
Ever.
Can I say something real quick, though, about that?
So you're sure?
I'm absolutely
Just think about it for a second.
Now, the second the game gets over, you can prepare for the next game.
Correct, but not until that game's next.
But just because...
And also, don't talk about the celebrations we found out in Gronk's press conference.
Yeah, Gronk.
Yeah, Gronk needs to not talk about not talking about the celebration. He missed the point of not talking about
Coach
this.
said don't talk about this, but I want to.
Somewhere Belichick is going like this.
I'm a little confused.
Oh, he will be a star for the Steelers.
Can I say something that I think you guys will agree with? Just because Bill Belichick does it one way does not mean every team should do it that way. And the Steelers do have their... I understand it's incredibly effective.
It hasn't worked very well for him.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. Has Mike Tomlin been effective?
Yeah.
Would Mike Tomlin's style work for Bill Belichick?
No, but are we comparing their success?
No, okay.
I mean, how are we defining success? 5 Super Bowls, 17 consecutive winning years.
No, correct.
Like,
I understand
how do we
that,
define success?
Okay, so there is. Let me use another example of a coach I know you respect, Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Would Mike Tomlin's style work for Andy Reid?
I think everybody has to have their own style.
Exactly. That's my point. Mm-hmm. So I understand that because Tomlin's been more successful than Andy Reid.
Everyone's got to have their own style, but in training up 53 guys, you can't train everyone to think, especially when it's the Tomlin way. It's hard to get guys to keep that up and down roller coaster. Now, as a coach, you want to be a constant, a stabilizing force in the organization so the players can play better. All right? That's the coach's job, to create an environment, teach football that the guys can understand it, comprehend it, and carry that over to the game, and that's how they get better compared to being up and down. It's harder for players to train under that than under the consistency that New England presents on a daily basis.
Well, we talk about how inconsistent Pittsburgh is, but what is true is since Tomlin's been there, they've never had a losing record. They have been, other than New England.
Yeah, but what Pittsburgh coach has had a losing record? You look up Pittsburgh's record the last 30 years and look how many coaches, how many losing seasons they've had.
Also, look at everything that's happened on that team this year. I know they have a winning record and they're doing well, but every week in and week out, we talk about the fighting and the conflict and the yelling and the arguing and more playing time.
Okay,
I don't know if it's an us problem.
Well, it's not a Steelers.
Ask a coach. Ask a former player. Do you want to play like that? Do you want to coach like that?
It's not a Steelers problem because they have the second best record in the NFL.
Well, this is the problem, Nick. If you're just looking at this year, what we've looked at with Ben Roethlisberger and Tomlin since they've been there together, what we've seen is inconsistencies, and we have seen them not perform well when you expect them to. A Green Bay game under primetime, Aaron Rodgers is not there. They got a backup in there. Their defense is not good. We've been telling you this, and then Pittsburgh played that way. Now we're wrong.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, but hold on a second. If we all acknowledge that the Steelers have been incredibly consistent, won a hell of a lot more than they lost.
We haven't said that.
No,
we haven't said that. We haven't said that about Tomlin since he's been there. Now, you talking about the Steelers organization?
Right. And that, hold on, but let's really dissect this for a moment. If we're all agreeing the Steelers win more than they lose, and we all agree that they very often lose games they should win, right? Or play poorly in games they should win, then for the math to work out, they must also, in some of their biggest games, against some of their toughest competition, play better than you would expect. Like, maybe that's the give and the take of the way this team works, is that, yeah, there are some games that they should win by 17 points, and they end up winning by 3. And there are some games that they should lose, or they should win by 3, and they end up winning by 10 against better teams. Like,
Let's just look at their December record and their January record the last 5 years. And if that record, you can say you're satisfied with it compared to what New England and some other people have done, okay, that's what you're comparing against. It's not New England. No, it's Denver. Like, Denver's been in the running the last several years as the best team. So I can understand. I like Mike Tomlin, but I like stability. I know how an NFL player has to prepare and what he needs to do his job, all right? And the consistency, it's very, very important for young people who don't have structure. All right? It's important that you look for structure from the coaching staff and from the organization.
And one of the things that you're always looking for as a coach and as any leader is to try to get people to play to their potential. And so you may have an employee or a player who plays really well. Maybe they go to the Pro Bowl. Maybe they have tons of success, but they're not what they should be. So when you look at that person, is he really, truly successful when he's underachieving from what he should be? And you said Pittsburgh has the second best record in the NFL. Should they have the best record in the NFL based on who they had? I mean, we can argue that.
Yeah, I would definitely take Pittsburgh personnel over New England's personnel besides the quarterback. Like,
or
they got
coach, evidently.
Obviously. Yeah, right. I'm taking Belichick over any coach.
Right, of course.
So any argument.
And they got the same record. I mean.
Well, I mean, our history is very, very short.
But he's saying the personnel, he'd take the personnel in Pittsburgh, now they have the same record.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.